Hello, today we are going to be talking about one of the most important albums in all of J-rock and math rock history, which is THE, otherwise known as The, by the band Tricot. So Tricot was formed in 2010 with 3 key members. That would be Motoko Motifor Kida, Ikkyu Nakajima, and also Hiromi Hirohiro Sagane. For this album, they also included Kazutaka Komaki as the drummer. So as I mentioned, this is Tricot's first album from 2013, and it includes a lot of songs from previous singles and from EPs leading up to this point in 2013. Now, normally I leave the score for my videos at the end, but one thing I want to do different with this video is I want to say the score and then explain why I think it gets that score. And that is primarily because this album right here is an easy 10 out of 10. This is what I believe to be a proper math rock and J-rock classic album. If you want to get into either genre, you need to listen to this. This is mandatory listening. And why is that? At this point in time, Tricot's sound was that of a J-rock middle child. So from my perspective, either your band was just completely unknown or you were hitting the mainstream. And I would say that similar bands to Tricot at this time in 2013 would include Mass of the Fermenting Dregs and also Kino Koteikoku. However, they had just kind of reached that mainstream J-rock appeal from their most recent album that year. Now, what makes this album a classic to me, you might be wondering? I think that not only is this album just fantastic from a lyrical standpoint, an aesthetic standpoint, this album is not only full of songs, it's full of moments. And just to name a few of those, I would include the ending guitar arpeggio on Pool, is just this beautiful outro that they would then go on to kind of make sort of their own motif that would carry throughout some of their albums. I would say that the way Ikkyu ends the song Tobe is just this beautiful cacophony of like yelling that is so perfectly on pitch and on key, and sort of in a way can only be described as surgical, the way she is hitting these notes so precisely. And not to leave out Komaki on drums, his kick drum start on the final song Oyasumi is just beautiful and just iconic, as are many other parts of this album. I think there are just so many moments that this is truly like a definitive album for all of J-rock and, as I said, math rock too. I feel like if you're just starting to get into math rock as a genre, this is a mandatory listen. This and Toe and Delta Sleep and Sean, and obviously much more popular bands too like Slint or TTNG or American Football. These are all mandatory listens that you need to get into to kind of solidify that knowledge base. This is a mandatory listen, honest to God. Just to talk about more moments on this album from every member, for Ikkyu, there is this additional guitar strum that she sort of inserts into various songs, such as on Omotanashi, where she is kind of like co-leading Kida's main guitar rhythm. And it is just so perfectly placed and well-timed and well-executed. It's just magnificent, honestly. She also has this really rock star moment on the song Art Sick, where she's navigating these like very distinct vocal notes on the scale. And she is so precise in that very like last minute of the song. It's almost like you're listening to someone auto-tune themselves in real time. And from what I've seen of live performances, she is able to replicate this every single time she sings this song, even 11 years later. And on top of that, she even manages to sound extremely smooth throughout songs like that as well. I don't know how she does it. So for Kida as the lead guitarist, I mean, Pool easily features some of her best work ever, and that was the first song on their debut album. And it's amazing too because she had set such a high bar for herself on that very first song. Like Ikkyu on the song Art Sick, Kida just has this very ethereal and like alluring reverb heavy guitar riff that is just amazing on that song. I honestly don't know if many bands have had such an iconic start as Tricot on this album. And not only is she playing the guitar, Kida also has backing vocals on the song CGPP, which really show how she is a perfect backup singer for Ikkyu just due to her voice just being so easily able to match Ikkyu's pitch in almost every case. Now for Hiromi, I've actually talked about her on the channel in the past. I've talked about her solo band's debut EP, Slowdown, which I love, and I'll link it right here somewhere. Definitely check that out because I just think that Hiromi is a fantastic singer, songwriter, and bassist. For example, at about the 2-minute and 20-second mark on the song Taratata, she has this vocal harmony with Kida that sounds like otherworldly, and it continues throughout that entire song, and the manner in which they offset each other in their kind of desynchronization just sounds fantastic. And she also easily rides the tempo of Ikkyu and Kira on the song 99.974 degrees Celsius, while also managing to still provide her own impressive sound and bounce to the song via her bass. And of course, not to leave Komaki out, he completely matches Kira's very frantic energy on the song Ochansen Susu and offers some really just enticing drum breaks on that song too. I truly do not have a single bad thing to say about any of the performances from any of the 4 members on this album. They are all playing at such a high degree of competency and just skill that it is, again, remarkable that this is their first album. And at this point too, they're all still in their mid-20s. So it is crazy that they were able to come out with this level of competency so early in their lives. They have been playing as a band now for 14 years. And they're not slowing down. They keep improving. And that is truly something remarkable from a band of any genre, frankly. Instrumentals aside, those are all well and good. They're all fantastic. But what really shines on this album too is Ikkyu's ability to write and compose songs. She is my favorite lyricist and possibly singer of all time. So what I did while listening to this album is I translated the lyrics and I kind of took what I could from each of the themes of the songs. And I'd like to also talk about what each of those are too in this section here. And so of course I have them in my very trusty notebook here. So for the first song, Pool, I find that this song is kind of about thinking for yourself and not to easily give in to public opinion, which is of course further evidenced by the music video for this song too, which I definitely recommend watching. It's probably one of their most viewed music videos on their channel, and its cinematography is extremely interesting too, because they use the perspective of about 20 separate people's phone cameras too, to actually record the video on top of their professional camera as well. So for me, the song Tobe is kind of about a friend that over time you sort of lose contact with. And then once you reconnect or you find out more about them in the present moment, you kind of realize that they've squandered the potential that you've always seen in them. For instance, one of the main refrains, if you translate it into English, would be, "You can fly far, far away like you did back then." And you just sort of kind of are remorseful about how they couldn't really live up to your expectations of them. And not only how that's sad for them, but also kind of sad for you because they aren't that person that you used to kind of look up to and also be so impressed by. For the next song, Omotenashi, it sort of muses over morality being a goal and how it's not a natural state and is something that can easily slip from your fingers and how you always have to continue working at it to actually be that moral figure that you see yourself being. It's not something you're just born as, it's something you have to keep up with. So one song that I've always thought is kind of underrated is the song Heartsick. And I love this song because Ikkyu describes how she has turned her pain into art. However, she has decided to cover it up with layers of more paint to hide those emotions that she is too afraid of actually expressing through her art. These top layers keep peeling away regardless of how many times she paints over them. No matter how hard she tries, her true emotional thoughts want to emerge to the surface, despite the fact that she isn't really willing to show that much of herself to the public and to her audience and to her fans. But she can't stop herself from just writing that way because that's just how she is and that's just what she feels. For the song CNC, Ikkyu goes over how she wasn't able to give a relationship the care, attention, and energy it needed, and now that it's gone, all she can ruminate over is what could have been. That is really evident in the final verse of the song too. And then following that, you have the very strange song Ochansen Susu, which is this prayer song that is not really full of meaning, but is more thematic in that it's kind of this like breathing point in the album to kind of recollect yourself. The following song, Hatsumimi, which is the noun for hearing something for the first time, seems to me like the song is from the perspective of love personified. And so because of that, the song is verbalizing the thoughts and feelings of unrequited love. The hearing for the first time aspect is actually just one person realizing how they feel about the other. On the following song, 99.974 degrees Celsius, she has a what comes up must come down sort of mentality. So on this song, Ikkyu talks about how a past relationship was awesome, but now that it's over, you really just have to say goodbye for good because it's not coming back. And maybe that's a mutual feeling for her, maybe it's a one-sided thing, but because she's so resolute, at the very least, it seems like she is the person in control of the future of the ended relationship at this point for what it matters. So the next song is called Taratata. In this song, we kind of get the sense that Ikkyu is at an extreme low. Because of that, in this song, she is begging for someone, for anyone, to come and fix her. Side note too, the title of this song seems to have some kind of Shakespearean origin from what I could find. I couldn't really find a lot because it does not seem to be a native Japanese word and is an expression used in a Shakespearean play, but it seems to kind of have that kind of theatrical connotation to it at the very least. The next song is called CGPP. And this song just features more languishing from Ikkyu. In this song, she feels so awful that she can no longer move around, leave her house, go outside, and live life as shown throughout the song, but primarily that very first verse. The second to final song is called Swimmer. And I really like this song because Ikkyu talks about getting over a slump and just feeling reinvigorated, just being so back, so incredibly back that it feels like you can take on the whole world. I feel like there are either songs that are like, I'm so low or I'm so high, but there aren't a lot that tackle the subject of actually being able to fix yourself and then being able to actually excel at everything you try after that. So this is a really unique song for that reason, I think. And then of course we have our final song, which is called Oyasumi, which in Japanese means good night. So first off, fantastic title for a closing song for any album. Nailed it there. But for me in this song, Ikkyu is really talking about how just because dreams and opportunities have passed you by once, there is no reason why those can't reappear or re-emerge again in the future. I feel like you can apply this to so many situations too, right? Like to work, to school, to love, to friendships, just in all aspects of your life. I feel like this is a very human trial. And I just like that the final note that this album goes out on is a very hopeful one. Again, I think that Ikkyu is just really a songwriter beyond her years. So yeah, that's the album. Just to kind of reiterate how I feel about every member here, for Ikkyu, she is so precise with her just vocal inflections, the way she holds out notes, and her songwriting. It is all just perfect. For Kita, she plays like a madwoman on this entire album, and she came up with these just extremely wild yet organized guitar melodies. And on top of that, these melodies in particular are just able to integrate Ikkyu's vocals and backup guitar so extremely well. For Hiromi, she provides this great groove and pace for the band on every song. Her backup vocals also add a lot of texture to smoothen out some of Ikkyu's harsh and sharp vocals as well. For Komaki, his drum work is on a whole other level on this album, and he really exhibited his ability to utilize hi-hats over the rest of the kit so as in a way to not drown out other members, nor get himself drowned out as well in the mix, which is just really impressive, I think. So in general, I think on this album, the band is just flawless. And it's a real shame that Komaki left almost immediately after this album came out too. And while I would say that the standout member is Ikkyu across this album because her vocals are so front and center, I feel like each of the members of the band really show off their skills, which are, like I said, years beyond them. Again, they're all in their like mid-20s here, and they should not be sounding like this cohesive and this skilled so early in their career, especially with this as their very first album. They set such a high bar, it's actually insane. Just to reiterate, in case I lost you at any point, I think Kita's guitar work on this album is impeccable. I think Ikkyu's vocals and songwriting are impeccable. I think Hiromi's bass playing and her success in using her voice as an accompanying instrument is impeccable. I think Komaki's drumming ability and expressiveness and creativity while doing so is also impeccable. There is no reason in my mind that this album deserves anything less than a 10 out of 10. It is so perfect. It's at such a high bar, not just for the band, not just for J-Rock, but for math rock as well. And to kind of have this kind of cross-pollination of success in various niche genres for listeners in the West is just incredible. Unfortunately, I don't really have any numbers to back this up, but I think this album is partly why Japanese rock is so popular in the West. Arguably, Tricot is the most popular Japanese rock band outside of Japan. Sure, you can kind of make an argument for a lot of other rock bands that are popular outside of Japan, such as Nightmare, such as L'Arc-en-Ciel, such as Bees, such as Porno Graffiti. But I feel like at the time, tricot were the new kids on the block for this new mainstream international Japanese rock appeal, and they still kind of are. For example, Ikkyu is also the lead singer of another band called Genie High. Each of the members of Genie High are known for something, whether they're classical composers or comedians or extremely famous songwriters. For Ikkyu, they actually talk about how she is extremely popular internationally. And I feel like to actually have that kind of recognition standing among giants of the Japanese entertainment industry is really impressive and is a real compliment, because no one else has really attained that kind of outside Japan popularity as Ikkyu Nakajima and the rest of tricot. I truly feel like this album is why they are regarded as such. Now, for the third time, this is a 10 out of 10. This is a perfect album. There is nothing wrong with this album. But if you do have other feelings on it, let me know in the comments. I will try to respond respectfully. And I would actually love to hear your opinions too, because I don't think I'm alone in this opinion. But if I am, I guess let me know and we can talk about it. So yeah, thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.